Up. The Avs now starting to find. He gets Vanacek down. He gets Vanacek out. And the Avs have taken a 3-1 lead over San Jose for Kiviranta.
It's his third assist of the season as well.
Avs find a way to come back and win two. It's not one, it's two. One's a fluke, two's a streak as we welcome you into Between the Pipes here on Altitude Sports Radio. We are live on Twitch, on Twitter, on YouTube, presented by our friends at Safeway. Make sure you guys go get your vaccinations, flu shots as soon as you possibly can. You can get those at Safeway and also sign up for those appointments at Safeway.com. It's super easy through their mobile app as well. I'm Alex Ryan-Emmy. You guys know me better as Raj, joined as always by my co-host, my partner, the radio machine, Mark Springer. And Spring, one's a fluke, two's a streak. And while it's San Jose, I said it a couple of nights ago, there are no such things as meritless points when you're missing $34 million from the lineup. A win's a win, and they need them.
Yeah, I don't want to sound cocky or anything over here because the Avs were 1-4 coming into tonight, and it was San Jose. That team's not very good. You saw it tonight. Without Macklin Celebrini, the first overall pick, he's on IR. It's really not a lot of dynamic play. Very beatable team. So I don't want to sound cocky, but I apologize as we enter the streaming era Between the Pipes. I decided to do a load of laundry in the third period because that's the way the game was going. I was feeling the Avsness of this. So if you hear my laundry, my washing machine in the spin cycle, I apologize here as I'm now in my humble abode. But that's what this game was. I mean, it's boring, Raj. It was ho-hum. It was like that's what it should be. You need the win. You need the 2 points because you're 1-4. But that's a road game with your stars playing in San Jose. Cale Makar, 12 points in his first 6 games, and he's had a couple off games, yet he's still having the best start for an Avs defenseman in franchise history. Ross Colton is how I started the show in the last win over Anaheim. You like Middlestat in that game. I like Colton. And Colton, you need someone to step up. He is maybe your top candidate. Middlestat can maybe play a little over his shoes. I'd say Colton is a firm candidate to be a guy to step up and pick up some slack without everyone that is out. And man, Ross Colton, what a steal. I still love the move to essentially flip Alex Newhook for him. Alex Newhook is still polishing. He's still getting his NHL legs under him with the Montreal Canadiens. Ross Colton was a player I always loved when he was on the Tampa Bay Lightning, a guy who I saw better things ahead for, and a savvy addition. It's good to see it finally paying off in this type of a way. Ross was good last season. I felt like there was a step he could take as he's in his mid-20s now, be the type of player that the Lightning would look back on and say, man, wish we would have had the money for him, wish we would have found a way to keep him. Ross Colton, man, it's exactly what the Avs needed. He's a fun player. He lays hits. He's got some sass to him. Another great Ross Colton game.
There's a chance that Alex Newhook may never pan into the player that Ross Colton is right now. Sure, does he have the pedigree as a first rounder to be a player who produces more than Colton has in his first couple of years in Denver? I suppose the answer to that question would be a yes right now, Spring, but he's the guy that the Avs need now. He's the guy that the Avs needed after the cup run to try and make sure that their middle six depth was as impressive as their top six. And right now, when you are missing this many players, a guy like Ross Colton stepping up and scoring as much as he has, again, just 1 goal shy of the league that's held by Nikita Kucherov right now, 6 goals in his first 6 games is a pace that he's never been on in his entire career. He's scoring from the bumper on the power play. Is that a spot he's going to stay in for the entire season? No, it's not. It certainly isn't. But he's scoring from the bumper. He's just getting sticks on pucks, and he's also showing some finesse in tight, which is what happened in the second goal today that put the Avs up 2-0 at the end of the first period. It's a beautiful pass from McKinnon, but his handle right there, settle the puck, backhand, forehand, hard shot on the far side to beat Vanacek on the blocker. Sorry, the pass from Rantanen in there. That's what you need to see out of him, right? Like that's the next evolution in getting your bang for your buck on Ross Colton, right? He's been a guy that has been, when you talk about trying to bring in a big swing, whether it's a goaltender or another top 6 forward, like the pipe dream that like Sidney Crosby playing in Colorado. One of the names that is consistently brought up, and I think it's not because of the player that he is, but it's because of the money, right? Ross Colton's often brought up in that conversation, but this is the player that they got. This is the player that they signed away from Tampa Bay for a reason. Yeah, he's a prick to play against. He's miserable to have forecheck on you. He's a really good penalty killer, and when he adds this to his game, you get more value than you're paying for the player. And that's the way that this team is going to succeed in the long run.
And it just felt like Ross profiled as that type of player, a guy who, like so many Avs players, Jonathan Drouin, who's out, Valeri Nichushkin, who's out, overplaying their contracts. He absolutely felt like a candidate for that. I like Miles Wood and I like Logan O'Connor, but he always had the potential to be a player who could jump up a little more than those other two, who has a little more roundness to his game, a little more offensive punch. His ability in the slot this season has been great. It looks as good as any player who could play in that bumper position in the league. Ross Colton, you'd like to have him as a 3C. You'd like for him to be in his true position, but because of the situation, you got to play him on the wing a little bit right now, on the top line with Nathan MacKinnon and Mikko Rantanen. And not a lot of players can handle that sauce pass that Mikko Rantanen puts into the zone and then finishes it in stride like Ross Colton did. He's probably the guy that needed to step up, the guy that could play above his skis, and it's worked out exactly so. You'd like for it to result in more than 2 and 4, but for him to be the guy to do this right now, I think he's the candidate that it needed to be done. He needed to be the one to do it, and he did it.
You mentioned playing Ross Colton on the wing right now out of necessity, Spring, and I don't know if that isn't a great idea for them moving forward. Now, what that brings into the equation is, well, who is your third line center moving forward if that were to be the case? And the easy answer for what's in the pipeline, at least in the future, would be 19-year-old Callum Ritchie. But through now 6 games and knowing he only has 3 remaining before decision day, whether or not he gets sent back to the Oshawa Generals in the Ontario Hockey League, or if he stays here with the Avalanche for the entire season, again, because he is 19 years of age, he must be sent back to the Ontario League for the entirety of the season or stay with the Avs the whole year. There is no option for him to go to the American Hockey League and play down the road with the Colorado Eagles. He's too old, and again, that rule is there to protect the CHL, the Q, the W, and the OHL, the major junior leagues up in Canada, from being cannibalized by the American Hockey League and the NHL. That rule is there as a safeguard for those 3 leagues. I don't know if I've seen enough out of Callum Ritchie in terms of his overall game, in terms of making an impact right now, to say that the team could move him into the third line center position and then utilize Ross Colton as a top 6 winger until you get Nichushkin, Jonathan Drouin, who went on IR earlier today. Granted, it's retroactive to October 8th, so he can come back at any point. Not to mention Lehkonen and Landeskog. Has he done enough to be that third center so you can utilize Ross Colton in what looks like a role that behooves him offensively?
I would love to see Cal Ritchie assume that role in the interim. Jonathan Drouin placed on IR. He's going to miss at least the next 5 games. So let's say it's 5, or it shouldn't be too long after that, we hope at least. Drouin gets back, as well as Ross has played in these last few games with Rantanen and MacKinnon. I think you got to put Drouin back up there to play with Nathan MacKinnon, his boy. And then you got to put Ross then on the second line with Casey Middlestat. You have to. Ross has earned top 6 minutes. He should absolutely be there. So I'd love to see Cal Ritchie until, Lehkonen and Nichushkin are back, and then Ross can go back down to the second line so that Middlestat is playing with, Valeri Nichushkin and Arturi Lehkonen. What a freaking line that is going to be. But we're a couple weeks at least away from that. So, yeah, I'd love to see Cal Ritchie in 3C. Parker Kelly has been okay. I mean, he hasn't made a lot of mistakes. You need Wood and O'Connor around him to do a little more, but you just need that third line to be solid. Last season, we're talking about 2C, and that also leads to talk about 3C because Colton's floating, Ryan Johansson's whatever. Oh, you'd love to have a good 3C in addition to a 2C, but right now with everything they're fighting, that third line just needs to be solid defensively. It just needs to not make mistakes. So whether it's Parker Kelly, whether it's Cal Ritchie in a perfect world who would give you a little more offensive upside than the limited Parker Kelly, as long as OC and Wood are playing solid defensively with whoever's in the middle of them, you just got to eat a little lack of offensive production as Ross Colton is needed on the first and soon to be second line when Drouin is back.
So I have a question for you, and this is like a philosophical debate that I have with myself that I honestly, it's going to sound nerdy, but it was born from me playing like general manager mode on the NHL video games when I was a kid, in terms of like, do you burn an ELC year on a young player, knowing that like you won't get as much value out of him in year one? Like Cal Ritchie isn't going to be a mega valuable player this year for the Avalanche. I just don't think it's going to happen. He could prove me wrong. Like maybe he comes on super hot at the end, like Wyatt Johnston and Logan Stankoven did last year for the Dallas Stars. But the chances are he would be a contributing piece to this team, rather than someone who's actually like making an active impact. Would you burn that first year of the ELC so that when he eventually starts to figure it out when he's 20 and 21, that he's not performing at like peak-ish levels where you could then possibly, because you've already burned this year, you could save money 2 years down the road? You get where I'm going here?
I do.
Do you do that, or do you let the contract slide this year? Like you play his 9 games, you send him back to the O, which he's too good for that league, and then you start the 3 years next season. But again, like I look at that and I go, well, he's a year older. What happens if he puts up 65 points as a 22-year-old, and now you got to pay him the JT Compher contract?
It's tough. Cal Ritchie tonight played just under 11 minutes. It's not much. For a guy you'd like to see play a little more given his skill. It goes to show that they don't quite trust him right now. He didn't have a shot on goal. Cal Ritchie didn't have a single shot on goal tonight, and I only think that's significant because it is San Jose. That's a 4A team. That's an opportunity for a player like Cal Ritchie to play, against some competition he's more used to. The San Jose Sharks of any team in the NHL are going to resemble teams that Cal Ritchie has played more recently in his amateur career.
Spring.
But no shots on goal. He's we've seen now we are 6 games into the season. He's a little bit of a project. It's going to take some time. If you stay healthy, if you get guys back, and when the season started, I would have said, nah, let Cal Ritchie stay. You'd like to have the availability, even if he's a healthy scratch most nights, because injuries can pop up at any time. But man, if you get guys back and you can stay healthy, I think it would behoove him right now to play night in, night out, even if it's against competition that will be, he's going to be caught in between here, the competition and whatever Canadian league he'll go back to.
He'll dominate the Ontario. He'll dominate the Ontario league.
I'd almost at this point rather have him playing night in, night out and put him on the back burner a little bit. And maybe some of that, look, tonight, Yoel Kiviranta scores. Unless you're playing Ritchie at center, I think Kiviranta, it's a sick little forehand to backhand move that he scores on. Yeah, he has scored some big-time goals in his career. It's just more, if it's about wing play, you're going to trust a Kiviranta right now throughout the season more than you are a Cal Ritchie, and it shows tonight. I'll say with Yoel Kiviranta, you don't score a game-tying goal late in the third period and an overtime winner in a Game 7 in your career and not have a little something as a bottom six player in this league. And Kiviranta showed it tonight. I mean, he's going to be a nice little fourth-line player when everybody is healthy. So time's running out on Cal Ritchie. It's Game 6. He's got 3 more to go before they got to make the decision. I would say as things stand right now, you're going back to Canada.
I expect them to send him back at this point. Again, I'm still struggling with the development decision. Is it better to play every single night and just go dominate the Ontario League and be the go-to guy in the World Juniors for Team Canada? And listen, even if he were to stay up with the Avalanche, he could still be sent to the World Junior Championships this year by his National Hockey League team. That happens all the time with young players that do not slide their entry-level contract and stay with their club for the first year of the ELC. They get sent out, guys who would be in Cal Ritchie's situation where they're only playing, 10 to 12 minutes a night at the most, and they're not an impact player. They'll send them off to juniors and be like, hey, go get a scoring touch and come back to us. We'll be fine. I could see that being part of the equation is like, well, if he can help us until like the end of November, and then he becomes a healthy scratch, and maybe he plays a game here or there based on injury, or if we just want to get him some touches on the ice, having him around the pro team and being in that environment and training with the Avalanche, like he would, if he's a healthy scratch, he's just like anyone else. He's practicing with the team. He's traveling with the team. He's at morning skate. He could skate in warmups if he wanted to every single game. It just matters whether or not Bednar and the club would want to play him. There is something to be said for having him around that professional environment. I still think if you ask me tonight, I'm on the same page as you, is that like I'm leaning toward him going back, because I think they'll look at the situation that's unfolding before them right now, 2-4, right? They're working back to 500. You have one really tough game in Utah, and you have a winnable game at Seattle. If all goes correctly, you could be looking at 4-4 at the best, or maybe like 3-4-1 by the time that you get back home for a small homestand. If they get back to 500, I think they could look at Cal Ritchie and go, we can't wait to see you next year. Go score 140 points in Ontario, and we'll just deal with it until guys get back 4 weeks from now.
All right, let's talk about the other big story coming out of tonight's game, and that is Justus Annunen.
Justus thinks he's going to be happy with you.
But, all right, and here's I just can't shake this as I'm watching this game. And Justus was very good. Like, this was the story of the back end of the regular season, where whenever Justus would play compared to Georgiev, now Justus was playing against the weaker opponents down the stretch last season, but he was looking good against them. I think the Red Wings, top of my head, were the toughest team that Justus faced, and I think he fared well in that game. But regardless, another weak team here tonight. So I can't help but shake that as Justus, looks like visually, the movement, the calmness, the eating of rebounds, smooth glove saves, positioned in front of every shot. Everything is torso centered for Annunen tonight. It's how you want a goaltender to look. Justus looked the best that any Avs goaltender had looked this season. His only competition was Alexander Georgiev. So congratulations, Justus. You had the best looking performance of the season tonight, but it was against the San Jose Sharks, who had a couple dangerous chances, but were very vanilla in all of their attacks.
Hey, what did I say? There is nothing that you can say that's going to take away from a win for me with this team being 34 million short. There is nothing that you can say to get me off the stance of there's no such thing as a meritless win when you're missing this many players. Tonight was the first game that the Avalanche let in fewer goals than were expected to be scored against them in their 6 games played this season. Every other game, Every other game, including the win against Anaheim, they had let in more goals than were expected to be scored by their opponent. So I know it's San Jose. I know they suck. They're going to be picking number 1 overall again. They are very, very bad, very young. They've got a crop of young talent that's going to be great, but it's like 3 years down the road that they're really going to challenge. But Eustace held them in the game. So did the penalty kill at the end of the second period. I know it's San Jose, but I don't think we're at the point right now with all these guys out that you can go, well, it was San Jose, so it doesn't matter.
I don't disagree. No, I'm not kicking anything out of bed right now. It's just tough to forecast, how that performance against the Sharks would translate against, let's say that was the New York Rangers on the other side. Would Eustace have been able to keep his bearings? I mean, San Jose did come back and they outshot the Avs in this game, and that is a credit to Eustace. But they weren't the most dangerous shots. It wasn't the most dangerous of attacks as you would see against some of the more upper echelon teams in the league. Okay. But, again, Eustace can only do whatever is put in front of him, and tonight it was the San Jose Sharks. I think there is something to be said, too, about knowing you're getting the start from the onset, probably as early as yesterday or maybe even the day before, to have advanced warning that you're coming into the game. The only Eustace time on ice and net we've seen this season has been in emergency relief situations coming into to take over for a pulled Alexander Georgiev. We saw that in the back half of last season. Eustace was much better when he knew he was getting a start instead of being thrown in on the spot. Now, look, there's going to be times as a backup goalie where you're going to be thrown in when you're not expecting it. I expect you from time to time, especially as someone the Avs might be counting on in the future as a prospect with some upside, to bail the Avs out sometimes. I don't want to necessarily have that as an excuse of, he came in off the pine, therefore, he can just allow goals. He wasn't expecting it. That being said, I think there is something to be said about knowing you're getting the start. He knew he was getting the start tonight. When's his next start, Raj? I mean, do you carry this? It was the best looking from the fundamentals you want to see from a goaltender performance. Is that a hand you want to continue to ride and see if you can build on that against what will be a step up in the Seattle Kraken? That is 2 steps up, actually. Seattle's not amazing, but it's still 2 steps up from the San Jose Sharks.
If I have my choice to start him between Seattle or Utah, I start him in Seattle. Keep him hot, start him in Seattle. If he wins, then you have a big question on your hand for the Utah game. Is like, do it. He's got 2 in a row. He's looked good 2 in a row against a bad opponent, against a better opponent. And now you go into a Utah hockey club that forget that they're the Arizona Coyotes. And that was a team that gave the Avs fits, not only last year, but even when they were starting to build this thing that is centered around a player like Clayton Keller. Now this is a club that is spending money and has the first year bump that energy that you certainly saw behind Seattle and Vegas in their first couple of years as expansion franchises. That energy around a city can help run a team through the first part of the season. I would start on and in Tuesday in Seattle just to test it, right? Start Juice just to test it. And if it's bad, it's bad. Way she goes, you go back to Georgie for Thursday's game at the Utah Hockey Club, and you hope to get back on track. But you should test this. You're not in a position where you can look at Georgie and go, well, yeah, you're our bona fide number 1, because guess what? He hasn't his overall book has not played like that. If you had Igor Shesterkin in that, I go, yeah, what are you doing? Play Shesterkin. But those aren't the same player. He was good. He was good tonight. And I know I brought up the expected goals against number. That wasn't my favorite thing. He could have let in 2 goals tonight, 3 goals tonight, and I would have been fine had this stayed constant. And it did tonight. He didn't let up the backbreaker. He didn't let up the goal that was early. He didn't let up the goal that should not have gone in. He didn't let up the goal that was scored directly after one that you scored or directly after a goal that the opponent scored. He didn't let in the goal that lets all of the air out of the balloon. And that's what's killed Georgiev to start this season. It's the goal that makes you go, on the bench, right? And Annunen didn't do that tonight, and he deserves to get flowers for it, regardless of who he played against.
They have an interesting opportunity here to get back to 500, to start the season on a 4-game losing streak and then bounce back immediately with a 5-game win streak. They'd have to sweep this road trip, but I mean, their next two opponents, it's just fascinating that they're the two newest teams in the league, even though Utah is just a reboot of the Arizona Coyotes. It's the two fan bases at the very least that it's so new, shiny. We have an NHL team in our city now, and the Avs are going to go on a tour of
They
those.
forget that there's 82 of these damn things.
Look, Seattle is solid, but man, that is a beatable team. That they really are. And if the Avs can continue the solid play from the past couple nights, there's 2 wins sitting right in front of them. And Utah one of their recent games was a loss to the Anaheim Ducks, who the Avs just beat. So while Utah got off to a good start to the season, they don't have that dynamic high-end play that the Avs do, nor does Seattle. I mean, they need Matty Beniers to be an all-star for them. They need him to, be the guide for their ship. He's still very young. There's issues in goal for Seattle. They have a new head coach this season, a new operation after a disappointing start. And before you know it, Raj, if they play I'm going to say the same. I know it was San Jose tonight, but I thought it was pretty responsible in their last 2 wins. I know it was Anaheim and San Jose, but if they carry that same play, as they start to figure out, you see this when guys get hurt and the Avs start the season with multiple injuries. It takes a few games for guys to figure out their new roles, to get the chemistry going, and then you can get into a stretch where now you're 5+ games into being with who you were without, and you can start to play, as if guys start to think, hey, because you're just in a malaise. It's night in, night out. You're robots. You start to think, oh, this is my new role. Like, this is just how, now I'm used to this. Now Ross Colton is getting used to this. Now Nikolai Kovalenko, I think, is the one young player who might start to be getting used to this a little bit.
I'm starting to see that from Kovalenko. He made an egregious error at the end of the second period today. Like a horrible pass in the defensive zone. But I think you're right. He's starting to figure it out. I think you said, did you say it last show or 2 shows ago, where he has a Lehkonen feel to him?
I've said it since I saw him in the preseason. Shorter guy. He's not small, but the left-handed shot, the way he skates, he can get in front of net. Some guys, it might not be, they might not get into that rhythm like a Cal Ritchie. Other guys, you start to find it in your new roles. And Kovalenko, it's coming along just a little bit. Obviously, Colton Middlestats, he's evolving as he's being asked to do more. This could be the settling in week. It really could. You go get 2 road wins, and all of a sudden, it starts to look even more daunting for the rest of the league when the reinforcements come. If the Avs get back to 500 at 4-4 just like that, it's going to be like, oh, damn. Oh, they're figuring it out even when they're shorthanded. It's going to scare the league.
Yeah, my number was 5-5-1 by the time the 3-game homestand is over on October 30th. So 5-5-1 after 11 games as Halloween rolls around. I said it on Dempsey and Company, which is now over. By the way, if you guys are Altitude Sports Radio 92.5 daily listeners, tune in tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. We are debuting a new show, The Morning Sprint, with Coach and Raj, myself. That'll be your new midday show from 10 a.m. to noon. Chris Dempsey is moving away to Altitude TV in a more expanded role with the Nuggets, and Coach Sanford and I are taking over your mid-mornings. I said it on Dempsey and Company. If they're 5-5-1 after the Tampa game, and then everyone gets healthy, and they go on a run where they are a top, let's say they get the 2 seed in the Central behind Dallas. Jared Bednar should be talked about for the Jack Adams. That's where you should be.
I love his awareness of the situation that he's being dealt with, because it was funny when he came on our station on 92.5 last week, and the guys in the morning asked him, how's the health situation? And he said, not good. And then he laughed. Like he knows the hand that he is being dealt right now. And he knows it's, man, we're on the internet. Can I say the S word? It's
You can
that
say
one.
whatever the fuck you want, Spring.
It's a shitty one. the hand that he was dealt is a shitty one. I'll try to keep those to a minimum. It's the internet, baby. No FCC. What's up,
You're not
Elon?
getting fined for this.
What's up, Twitter? Come on. I see some of the filth that you guys tweet. But he knows he was dealt a crap hand, but he also knows he has McKinnon, McCarr, and Rantanen. And he knew how big the Anaheim game was, and now the San Jose game. Get these two winnable ones, start to come into form. And here's another thing, too, about these two games coming up. ESPN, national audience on Tuesday night. The Avs have been on national TV a couple times at least already, and they've disappointed. They've disappointed America.
They've been like the Broncos when Russ was on the team, to the point where like they were the most televised national team in the league at that point, and then they took them off the next season, which, by the way, the Avs tied for the most nationally televised games this year with the Pittsburgh Penguins.
It's time to get a national TV win. It's time to remind America what's up. And then Thursday night is the debut on either My 20 or Channel 9, whatever the NBC programming looks like that night. We'll see which channel. I could pull it up here. But we'll get the debut of the local programming. You can't lose the debut of being broadcasted to a wider audience on Thursday night. That's the 500 night. This is a sneaky week coming up. I love the Avs in these two games.
Yeah, listen, I think they're going to, for me, they're guaranteed to win one. If you walk away with 2 out of 4 points on the road, I'm very, very happy about it, because then you have a chance to play an Ottawa team that's still figuring themselves out, and you have a chance to play against a very bad Chicago team as well. The pathway is there. It's not going to be easy. Again, like you're going to have to, like if you go into the Tampa game and you lose and people are all upset because they lost at home to Tampa, I'm going to look at everyone and go like, what did you expect? I'm not expecting wins, but I'm trying to project what I think are the most winnable games, and those are against the worst teams, right? Like you should have beaten Anaheim, you should have beaten San Jose, and I would say the same for at least Seattle and Chicago. I think everyone else is pretty iffy at this point with how many guys are missing. But I think you saw the 2 games against Anaheim and San Jose, and like that's how you're going to garner points until everyone gets back. You have to have very good penalty killing, which they had tonight. The PK was excellent this evening, particularly in the second period. They continue to score power play goals. I think their share of goals this year, power play versus even strength, they're scoring at like a 58 to 60% clip, which is just north of like half of the league. They're not way up there, so like the distribution isn't crazy. I'd like to see that number somehow go down without the power play falling off, if that makes sense. I just need to see more 5-on-5 scoring.
A huge sequence tonight was the Avs killing, was it a minute plus of a 5-on-3? The Avs also had a 5-on-3 themselves that they couldn't score on, but killing that 5-on-3 that the Sharks had, the penalty kill was very good tonight, led by Cale Makar. It was Makar and Manson who were the 2 defensemen out there on that 5-on-3. You can lean on those 2 in any situation. Cale is starting to turn around. Josh Manson had that. Mikko's pass to Colton for Ross's even strength goal was great. Manson's pass to Kiviranta was very nice. So the defense was good. Man, you think when they get Devon Taves back, whenever that could be, to shore up that decor even more. Raj, it was business tonight. It was a lowly San Jose Sharks team. It's a Sunday night. This one was right in the universe. I cannot believe that Russell Wilson and the Pittsburgh Steelers just beat the New York Jets 37-15.
Yeah, they blew
a little bit of bizarro world right there, but good to see the Avs back in the universe they should be in. That's beating a San Jose Sharks team by 3 goals on the road.
And listen, the universe gives with the Avs winning 2 games in a row, and it also takes away. Because, and you're welcome, guys, all of you listening, you're welcome, because my sacrifice is your success. The New York Mets have been eliminated from the National League playoffs.
And what a great run it was for your Mets, though.
That's the reason why the Avs won back-to-back games, because my Mets the pixie dust was wearing off. Cinderella was turning into a pumpkin. Grimace was turning into a pumpkin. What a ride for a team that was supposed to lose as many games as the Colorado Rockies. My beloved New York Mets pushed the LA Dodgers to 6 games in the NLCS. And again, I always knew they were going to lose. They were never going to get it done. I'm never going to see my Mets win a World Series until the day I die. I've just accepted that fact. But they've lost, and as a result, Avs fans, we can now win hockey games.
One door closes, another opens. As the Avs start to look good. Raj, you can only get so much.
I know.
There's and you know, I mean, in general, it feels like the Avs are just dealing with, you know, the monkey's paw of winning a championship. Hey, you won a championship, great. Here's an errant blade to Gabe Landeskog's quad. Here's the nonsense with Valeri Nichushkin. Here's all this and all that. Your Mets, it ends. The Avs, this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning tonight, as they will continue to slide upwards and upwards as bodies come back.
Corin goes, I always forget that most sports reporters' favorite teams are actually not the ones that they cover. Yeah, it wasn't my choice to be a Mets fan, but I am a born and bred one. All right, Spring, let's take a look around the National Hockey League with the rest of the scores today before we get some Bet the Pipes. And guess what? Here's another update. Raj still can't win a bet because the under hit in the New York and Toronto game last night instead of the over. I am ice freaking cold. The other games today's Spring around the National Hockey League, the Winnipeg Jets doubled up the Pittsburgh Penguins by a score of 6-3. And the chant in Winnipeg was, "Where is Rutger? Where is Rutger?" Rutger McGarity, the American-born first-round pick who forced his way out of Winnipeg because of a dispute between how his use was going to pan out this year. I believe McGarity is a Michigan product. He didn't like how Winnipeg was treating him in terms of his pathway to the National Hockey League, so they ship him off to Pittsburgh. And what did Pittsburgh do yesterday? Well, they sent him down to the minors.
Careful what you wish for. Hey, look, yeah, some of these younger players, it feels like this happened to a couple of guys around the league, but the old Pittsburgh Penguins tonight, they had an early lead in this game. They were up 2-0, and then the Jets stormed back, and that's how it's going to go most nights for Pittsburgh this season. And man, this is a by the book NHL night. This was everything you thought would happen tonight with the LA Kings beating the Anaheim Ducks 4-1 on the road.
Again, doubling up Pittsburgh. You know, they lose 6-3 against Winnipeg. They get 2 goals from our old buddy Lars Eller. The Kings are a team that, again, I was nervous about last year. They didn't take the big step that I thought they were going to. But I just like I love their depth. I love Alex Laferriere. I love Alex Turcotte. I think Anze Kopitar still has some miles left in those boots. And if they can get decent goaltending from the duo of Phoenix Copley and David Riddick, then they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the Pacific. Anaheim, again, a team that should be picking top 5 this year. And Spring's right. It was a by-the-book evening in the National Hockey League tonight. But Spring, let's close this one out on a Sunday evening on Bet the Pipes. I'm going to do my darndest to actually win a bet. And if you guys have been following us for the first few games, I am now 1-6 on my Bet the Pipes bets. So the play right now is to fade the ever-loving hell out of me. National Hockey League games tomorrow that we're taking a peek at. Just one of them.
Just one game.
Tampa Bay and Toronto. It's a banger of a game at 5:30 before you get a doubleheader on Monday Night Football. The lines are sitting right now. Toronto -145 at home. They are 3-2. The Lightning 3-1 on the season are +125 road dogs. The over/under is set at 6.5, paying out at -110 on both sides of the coin. Spring, anything you like here?
Yeah, I hate this one. I hate this matchup. This is one of those games that it doesn't matter which side I pick, I will be wrong. Tampa should win this game. The Leafs just lost at home to the Rangers 4-1. We're only able to muster one Austin Matthews goal in a marquee Saturday night game. Very disappointing from the Maple Leafs. Whereas Tampa's been playing well of late, and they will have the advantage in net. Vasilevsky will go up against Anthony Stolarz or a young Swedish backup goaltender, Hildeby, who is okay. I saw he had one start, or at least earlier this season, where I think he fared all right. And I could be dead wrong about that. Bad goaltending for the Maple Leafs. Vasilevsky should give them the edge. That being said, Toronto's home favorites, and this is the type of night where I bet on Tampa, and Toronto will right all wrongs, and they'll crush Vasilevsky for whatever reason. But I'll go with Tampa. I'll go with a team that I think is being undervalued on this line. Tampa plus 120 or whatever it is will be my pick.
All right, Spring's going to play the lines. I'm going to play the players. He's been called the empty net merchant this year. Nikita Kucherov, who leads the league in goals scored, just a measly 1-goal lead over our own Ross Colton. Cale Makar leads the league with 12 points through his 6 games this year. Not just defensemen, just everyone playing hockey. It's Cale Makar. Even though he's had a couple of bad games, he's still racking up the points well on his way to a 100-point season. That was one of my my bold predictions this year, Spring. He's an empty net merchant. He's also a power play merchant. Give me over half of a power play point for Nikita Kucherov in tomorrow night's game. That pays out on my book at plus 110. I'm sure you guys can find it as low or as tough of odds as even money, maybe even as high as plus 115. But I love the over half power play point. He lives on that right side flank. And if Tampa Bay is going to win this game, you got to score in the power play.
The NLCS is over. Got a couple Monday night games tomorrow. If you're looking for that extra action, your option is Leafs Lightning. It's a good matchup.
It is a good matchup.
And then it's freaking loaded on Tuesday. A ton of teams playing on Tuesday. And I think that they were saying that Wednesday is one of these days where, is this a frozen frenzy?
Yeah, I believe it is.
One of those. Yeah, you did the staggering motion. We got staggering start times on Wednesday. Every team is in action on what I think is being labeled a frozen frenzy, an opportunity this week for the NHL to showcase some things with the World Series starting on Friday, just some college football throughout the week. The NBA will start up, but the NHL they're going to force you. They're going to force feed some hockey to you right down your throat, and I'm going to guzzle it. Let's go.
5 days off between the end of the NLCS and 6 days off between the end of the ALCS and the start of the World Series is nuts to me. Lose-lose proposition in what is like the Major League Baseball's wet dream of a World Series, but it's a lose-lose proposition for everyone else that hates both of those ball clubs. Like, who's your team, man? Who are you rooting for?
In this World Series, the Dodgers. Yeah. The Dodgers, because of Shohei Ohtani. I mean, I get it. No one likes the Yankees. No one likes the Dodgers. I get it. I mean, the Dodgers are NLS rivals of the Rockies. How dare I? Shohei Ohtani is freaking awesome. So I'll be rooting for him to just hit a ton of bombs, to take Garrett Cole deep left and right. I'll just be rooting for Shohei Ohtani. By the way, it looks like that the Frozen Frenzy is all tomorrow. It is in fact tomorrow, where everyone is playing and it's all staggered.
Wait,
that is
Tuesday,
tomorrow.
Tuesday. No, we have one game tomorrow.
Oh my gosh, it's Sunday. It feels like Monday. Tuesday.
One game on Monday.
Tuesday.
Billion games on Tuesday.
Tuesday.
There we go. All right. Well, I think this is a very clear point to get us off of here when we start talking baseball on a hockey show. It's going to do it for us, guys. Thank you so much for joining us in the chat room. Grim, VTAC, Mel's been there, Corin, Bean, Duck, all of our friends who have been chatting with us the entire night. Mike Arnett. If you guys want to join us every single Avs game, you can do so right here on YouTube, on Twitch, on Twitter. And it's also thanks to our friends at Safeway again. So we will be back with you guys on Tuesday evening after the Avs take on the Seattle Kraken. You can hear that game on Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. Tune in tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. for Brett Kane and the debut, the first show of the morning sprint with Coach Sanford and myself, Alex Ryanemi. But for Spring, I'm Raj. We'll see you guys on Tuesday. Love you.